Hey guys, tonight we're heading into the rainforest, humid, buzzing, alive with bird calls and distant snarls. But you're not here to enjoy the scenery. Nope, you're here to be born. And I should warn you, it's not gonna be pretty. You're currently inside a womb the size of a pillowcase, curled in a tight C, squashed up next to your twin. That's right, twins in gorillas are rare. But when they happen, it's an all-out cage match. Your twin's foot is jammed in your face. There's a knee digging into your back, and space. Non-existent. The walls press down like wet leather, and you're competing for the same stream of nutrients like two interns fighting over one stale croissant. Then comes the drop. Labor for gorilla mothers is quick, not comfortable, just fast, like a banana peel slapstick fall out of a tree. One moment, you're cozy and squished. The next you're ejected like a loogie onto the cold, damp jungle floor. Your landing pad, a mixture of mud, leaves, and one half-chewed fig. You're shivering, you're slippery, and surprise. You can't breathe yet. Your mom sniffs you once, gives a grunt, and starts chewing on the umbilical cord. Yeah, no hospital, no gentle lullaby playlist, just teeth and instinct. She licks the gunk off you like you're a dropped mango, while scanning the bushes for predators who might fancy gorilla placenta as a side dish. And while we're here, fun biological fact, gorilla births are relatively easy compared to humans. Their birth canals are more accommodating, their babies smaller, but that doesn't mean it's fun. One wrong move, and mom could drop you off a branch, or worse, ignore you altogether if she's too young or stressed to bond. You get maybe 5 minutes of cuddles before you're hoisted up against her chest. She's got to move. The scent of birth is like an open invitation to every predator in the neighborhood. So now you're clinging, clumsy, squinting, breath still ragged, as your mom scales a hill with vines for ladders and death at every misstep. And this is where the suckiness really kicks in, because you don't even know how to hold on yet. Your fingers are barely fingers. They're more like soggy twigs. You slip, you dangle, you scream, though it sounds more like a hiccuping squeak. One fringe observation made by field researchers. Some newborns grip so poorly that mothers have to stop every few feet to shove them back into place like loose luggage. And when they don't, well, let's just say gravity wins. Scientists are still debating whether gorilla mothers feel deep emotional attachment in those first days, or if maternal instinct is more mechanical at that stage. But if you're born during a food shortage, a heat wave, or a leopard patrol, there's a chance you get left behind. A quick joke to keep things balanced: if you were hoping for a stork to deliver you gently into a pastel-colored nursery, wrong jungle. Here the stork probably eats lizards and occasionally screams like a banshee. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and your local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this sleepy jungle reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first night alive is a chaos of dripping branches, stomach growls not yours, and the rhythmic thump of your mother's heartbeat. That's your lullaby. Her chest rises and falls like a tired ocean wave, and you, little soggy burrito, are stuck to her like a leaf on a windshield. But even as you drift into your first bout of shallow sleep, something's moving nearby. You don't know it yet, but it's an owl-faced night hunter sniffing around the birthing zone. You won't remember this moment, but your body will. The cold, the suddenness, the realization that the world isn't built for comfort, it's built for survival, and you, tiny hairless jelly bean, just landed in the middle of it. You're only a few hours old, and already you're losing feeling in your tiny fingers. The air clings to your damp skin like a cold rag, and every gust of wind feels like a slap from an invisible hand. Welcome to the next phase of existence. Too cold, too fast, too weak. There's a myth that the jungle is always warm. Lie, it breathes in steam by day, and exhales cold mist by night. And here you are, freshly ejected from the womb. No fur to speak of, skin like peach fuzz, and bones as brittle as boiled noodles. Your only job right now, stay attached, because if you fall off, you die. No discussion, no safety net, just roots, rocks, and gravity. Your mother isn't heartless. She's just busy. She has to forage, keep watch, and maybe fend off an enthusiastic uncle who thinks you might be his. That's the thing about gorilla paternity. There's a whole lot of maybe. Scientists still debate how much male gorillas really know who their kids are. Some suggest they can tell through scent. Others think it's just educated guesswork based on timing. Either way, if you slip off and he's not sure you're his, don't expect a rescue. Your mother clutches you close, but her grip's not perfect. Sometimes she needs both hands to climb. That's when you dangle face down, upside down, sideways. Any way gravity can humiliate you. And you'd scream, if only your voice had figured out how. All that comes out is a sad hiccuping sound, like a deflating balloon. Here's a quirky observation. Newborn gorillas suckle, not just for milk but for thermal regulation. Your lips around her nipple are the jungle's version of a heated blanket. You press your face into her fur, which smells like damp moss and old bananas. It's not exactly lavender-scented bedtime lotion, but it's what you've got. Sleep comes in seconds, tiny bursts interrupted by the sound of branches snapping, birds shrieking, or your own stomach making goat-like noises. Hunger is constant, and nursing, that's a full-time job. But unlike human babies, you don't get cradled in a rocking chair or swaddled in something plush. You get pinned against a chest that moves like a jackhammer through the bush. Let's talk about threats, because they're everywhere. Even now, as your mother adjusts her posture, a bushbuck, a skittish little antelope, goes tearing through the undergrowth. Why? Because something bigger was following it. And now, that bigger thing might be coming this way. Welcome to the jungle, where silence is suspicious and stillness is often fatal. Meanwhile, your body fights its own war. Your immune system is brand new, like a first-time security guard who's never seen a break-in. Microbes from leaves, spores from the damp ground, a generous buffet of bacteria from your mother's grooming. All of them are throwing microscopic punches, and your body is losing most of those rounds. Mainstream fact: unlike humans, gorillas don't receive long-term passive immunity from their mothers. You get a little boost at birth, sure, but not much. No cozy 6-month buffer. Just you, some barely functioning white blood cells, and an immune system playing whack-a-mole with invisible invaders. There's a moment, probably around hour 6, when you experience your first full-body shiver. It rattles through your tiny muscles like static electricity. And your mom, she just grunts and shifts you to the other arm. Her way of saying, hang in there, kid. Your first poop, it's a disaster. It dribbles down your leg, pools in the crease of your mother's arm, and she just sniffs it, then licks it. No diaper, no wipes, just jungle hygiene at its finest. And don't worry, you'll be smeared with worse things before the week is over. One theory suggests that mother gorillas monitor their baby's waist to track health, sort of like primitive pediatricians with really strong stomachs. But no matter the reason, your excrement is now part of the local ecosystem, coating your mother's fur, matting into your own, and creating the scent signature that says newborn here to every predator within a mile radius. A soft joke for your sleepy brain. If you thought the worst thing in life was being born naked, try being born naked, cold, upside down, and pooping in front of your entire family. Night begins to fall. It happens fast here. 1 minute it's golden green light filtering through treetops, the next it's black velvet with whispers. Your mother builds a nest, if she's smart. Not all gorillas do, some just collapse where they are. But tonight, she weaves together branches, dry leaves, maybe a lucky tuft of moss. It's not a mattress, but it's better than nothing. She settles in, you're pressed to her chest again, heartbeat thudding like a drum echoing through your bones. That sound will become your lullaby for months. It's the only thing that tells your brain you're still alive, still wanted, still part of something. But you don't sleep soundly. There's too much to fear, too much unknown. the calls of distant hyenas, the rustle of something heavy moving uphill, and a sudden scream, sharp, panicked, vanishing. Somewhere, another baby didn't make it. You don't know this consciously, but your tiny nervous system reacts. A twitch, a gasp, a shiver, and still the cold presses in. You dream, maybe, of warmth, of light, of the quiet that never quite comes. But the jungle doesn't care. It breathes, it waits, and it never ever promises comfort. You're barely 24 hours into life, and already the rules are brutal. Cling tight, cry quiet, eat often, but not too often, or mom gets annoyed. Welcome to the jungle edition of early childhood, where your biggest source of comfort is also your first psychological puzzle, your mother. At first, she seems like a rock, warm, fur-covered, breathing rhythmically, protective in a way that feels almost magical. You're clamped onto her like a barnacle, your tiny hands curled into her coarse chest fur, your legs wrapped around her torso with all the strength of a boiled noodle. She feeds you, kind of. She snorts when you squeak. She slaps flies off your back. And for the most part, she lets you exist. But then she shifts. Her attention wanders. Sometimes she stops mid-groom to glare at a vine like it personally insulted her. Other times, she climbs with no warning, forcing you to scramble for grip as your face bounces off her ribcage. Motherhood, in gorilla terms, is not a constant gooey affection fest. It's more like an unstable Wi-Fi signal. Strong 1 minute, gone the next. One mainstream fact that might surprise you: not all gorilla mothers are naturally good at mothering. Some are excellent, attentive, nurturing, responsive. Others, not so much. Some forget their baby is clinging and scrape them against a branch. Some lose interest. Inexperienced first-time mothers have even been observed abandoning their newborns. It's not common, but it happens, and no one's calling CPS in the jungle. Scientists still debate whether gorilla maternal behavior is purely instinctual or shaped significantly by how the mother herself was raised. In groups where females had strong maternal models, parenting outcomes tend to be better. But if your mom was neglected, there's a chance you're about to star in a live reenactment of generational trauma. So here you are, hungry again, but she's not stopping. She's sniffing a log, tearing off bark. Her nipple is right there but angled like it's guarded by an invisible shield. You squeak, you squirm. She doesn't respond. Eventually she grunts, shifts her weight, and flops you back into position. Mealtime resumes. But it's not exactly five-star dining. The milk is thin, grassy, a little sour, nutritional, sure, but no one's bottling this stuff for Whole Foods, and it comes with a side of dirt, sweat, and the occasional bug crawling across your cheek. Let's talk about moods, because gorillas are moody. They don't hide it either. If your mum's annoyed, she shows it, loudly. She might slap the ground. She might shove your older sibling. She might even growl if you try to nurse while she's walking. And you learn fast to read those signs. A lifted brow ridge means not now. A grunted huff means I said not now. And the worst one, when she just ignores you altogether. Here's a cheeky joke for you. Imagine if human babies had to read their mom's mood before asking for milk. Half of us wouldn't survive preschool. Sometimes you find yourself looking into her eyes. Big, deep, mysterious. There's something ancient there, like a memory of the forest itself, but you don't get long. She looks away, because connection isn't the default. Survival is. Your older brother, let's call him Waku, thinks you're a living stress toy. He pokes you, he snatches leaves out of your grip, he slaps your head just hard enough to make you cry, then runs away like he didn't do it. He's 6, that makes him a full-blown hurricane compared to your current status as a vulnerable meat raisin. At one point, Waku grabs you by the foot and tries to drag you like a vine. Your mother intervenes, barely, a grunt, a swat, a mild scolding, but he does it again later, and again the next day. This is your life now. Sibling torment, motherly ambivalence, and the constant dread that today might be the day she climbs too fast, too far, and leaves you dangling again. A fringe tidbit: Some infant gorillas get kidnapped by other females in the group. It's not malicious. It's more like unsolicited babysitting. The other female just wants to hold something small and warm. But for you, it's terrifying. You're snatched from one uncertain mother and plopped into the armpit of a stranger who smells like fermented figs and makes weird grunting noises while bouncing you too hard. If you're lucky, you're returned within the hour. If not, your real mom might lose track of you entirely. And let's not forget the silverback. He's the giant, the boss, the alpha, and while he's not your direct caregiver, he's also the reason nobody's eaten you yet. He watches the edges, charges the strangers, growls at leopards and strange males. He's your accidental protector, unless he decides otherwise, because if he thinks you're not his, he might kill you just to eliminate competition. That's the dark underbelly of gorilla group life. Infanticide isn't rare. In fact, one theory suggests that's why female gorillas sometimes mate with multiple males, to confuse paternity and avoid having their infants murdered. It's not romance, it's insurance. By now your body's adjusting, you've gained a little weight, your grip's stronger, you've stopped flopping like a dying fish during every climb. But that doesn't mean you're safe, not yet, because as your mother's interest wanes, and it will, your job becomes more demanding. You start to hold yourself up, sit for a few seconds, balance on one wobbly leg, and every milestone comes with risk. A topple into a thorn bush, a crawl into an anthill, a curious sniff of something that turns out to be a snake. You're only 3 weeks old, but already you've been neglected, jostled, slapped, nibbled, ignored, and possibly dropped more than once, and somehow, you're still here. You're starting to sit up now, barely, and your little noodle spine flops around like wet rope. Your limbs are still wonky. Your head is way too big for your body, and your grip, let's just say a damp leaf, is stronger. But evolution doesn't care. You're alive, which means the tribe thinks you're durable enough to endure the next phase of development. Big brothers, accidental bullies. See, your older siblings or cousins or whoever that snot-covered little menace is, don't see you as fragile. To them, you're basically a plush toy that squeaks when shaken. Waku, the 6-year-old silverback in training, is the ringleader. And his idea of fun? Grabbing your arms and legs and pretending you're a wishbone. You thought you were developing hand-eye coordination? Nope. What you're really developing is trauma reflexes. Duck when Waku lunges. Flop like a dead possum when he yanks your ankle. Pretend to be asleep when he tries to ride you like a log. Let's add some fringe detail here. In many gorilla groups, juvenile males play incredibly rough. So rough that researchers have documented injuries like fractured fingers, bruised ribs, and even concussions, all from play. But guess what? It's tolerated, sometimes even encouraged, because roughhousing prepares young gorillas for adult battles. You're a crash test dummy in a game of future alpha training. You try to retreat. You shuffle on all fours to hide under mom's arm. Waku follows. You duck behind a root. He climbs over it, and when you finally cry, a real high-pitched yelp, your mother barely lifts her brow. She flicks a bug off her arm and keeps chewing her leaf wad like nothing happened. Occasionally, a female cousin steps in. She grabs Waku by the scruff and drags him off. Like a babysitter breaking up a playground fight. You're safe for now, but the message is clear. No one is coming to your rescue every time. Better toughen up. Banana breath. Here's a fun mainstream fact. Young gorillas are born with 32 teeth, just like humans, but the teething process, brutal. It starts around 3 months and makes your already miserable life somehow worse. Your gums ache, your jaw tingles, and you gnaw on everything. Twigs, roots, your own foot. Once you even tried to chew on your mother's nipple during nursing. She backhanded you into a pile of leaf mulch. Lesson learned. Meanwhile, Waku has moved on to a new game called Bark Cannon. He tears strips of tree bark, chews them into little spitballs, and hurls them at you from 10 feet away. You take a soggy wad right between the eyes and whimper. He giggles. The jungle doesn't clap for bullies, but it doesn't stop them either. Now let's take a wider view. You're not the only one suffering. All baby gorillas go through this, and not just physical roughhousing, emotional whiplash too. One day your brother shares a fig with you. The next, he stomps on your sleeping spot. You're learning the first rule of the forest. Affection is a luxury, not a guarantee. And speaking of sleep, you're not getting much. Every time you doze off, Waku pokes you, not even gently, full finger eyeball jab, or he tries to ride you like a backpack. Once, he dropped a beetle down your back just to watch you panic. You can't escape, you can't retaliate. All you can do is glare at him with as much baby gorilla fury as your squishy face can muster. He yawns in response. Scientists are still debating whether this kind of early harassment contributes positively to long-term social development or just breeds trauma. One theory suggests it creates resilience and rank awareness. Another argues it's simply dominance rehearsal, and the weak ones just adapt or disappear. Either way, you're adapting, slowly. You're learning when to fake being asleep, when to duck under mom's elbow for shelter, when to hiss softly just loud enough to attract her attention, but not loud enough to annoy her. One morning, you manage to crawl behind a vine curtain and think you've found peace, but Waku finds you. He stares at you, tilts his head, and hands you a mashed piece of fruit. Your first gift. You take it, you eat it. It tastes like sour pulp and tree dirt, but it's yours. And for a moment, you think maybe he's not that bad. Maybe this is how relationships work here. A slap, a giggle, a gift, repeat. Then he farts directly in your face and runs off screaming. You cough, you gag, and you lie there, stunned, wondering if this is what love feels like in the rainforest. You've managed to survive the body slams and snot-flicking contests from Waku and the gang, but don't get too comfortable. Your environment is about to remind you why being a baby gorilla is one of nature's least glamorous gigs, because now, you're crawling, badly. Your hands sink into something soft. It squishes between your fingers. You look down. It's poop. Again. Welcome to your 5-star jungle nursery, a patch of ground generously seasoned with half-digested leaves, insect husks, and last night's feces. Yours, your mum's, possibly Waku's. It's hard to tell anymore. You don't even flinch. Just smear your hand across your chest and keep crawling. Dignity is a foreign concept here. Let's talk about the real jungle floor. It's not a carpet of flowers. It's a festering microbial dance floor, warm, moist, rich with decomposing matter, and full of creatures you didn't even know existed. Beetles, worms, fungi, mites. And in this thrilling jungle daycare, you spend most of your time face down in it, drooling. Here's a mainstream biological fact. Gorilla habitats, particularly in lowland rainforests, have some of the highest biodiversity of microbial life on Earth. That's beautiful, from an ecological standpoint. But for you, it's like crawling through a petri dish with teeth. Your skin is sensitive, paper thin, and now it's breaking out. Red patches, crusty lines, tiny blisters that itch like betrayal. You scratch them with your foot. You rub them on bark. Sometimes you chew on them because you don't know what else to do. Your first experience with ringworm happens around week 5. It's not actually a worm, just a nasty fungal infection that creates little circular bald patches. You look like a moldy fruit. Your mom tries to groom it off, but ends up spreading it across your back like a buttery smear. Here comes a fringe tidbit. Gorillas, like some human cultures, occasionally use mud as a sort of dirt therapy. Adults have been seen rolling in soft clay or rubbing mineral-rich soil into their skin. It might help with parasite control, but babies, you just eat the mud and choke on it. Rain comes again. It's not gentle, it's not cinematic. It doesn't tap leaves like a lullaby. It dumps. It slams through the canopy like 1,000 tiny fists, hammering your nest into a soggy pancake. Your sleeping area turns to paste. Your fur mats into slimy ropes. You sneeze, you shiver, you get up and sit in a pile of leaves someone pooped on last week because at least it's dryish. And there's more bad news. Mold. Black spots creep across the base of your sleeping tree. They sprout under the nest. They grow on the underside of that banana leaf mom keeps using as a shade. Mold spores float invisibly through the air, waiting for your weak lungs to inhale them. Scientists are still debating the full extent of respiratory issues caused by fungal exposure in gorilla infants, but they agree on this. It's a problem. Gorilla lungs are susceptible to pneumonia, bronchitis, and other infections made worse by the damp, moldy conditions. And you're already sniffling. And now let's introduce the flies. Not the elegant, buzz through your ear kind. These are jungle flies. Big, bold, arrogant. The kind that land on your eyes and drink your tears. Yes, that's a real thing. They're called lacrophagus flies, and they feed on the salt in your eyeballs. So now, not only are you miserable, you're under siege by tiny emotional vampires. You squirm, you slap, you whimper. Your mom doesn't even blink. She has flies too. She's used to them. This is just the cost of existence. Get used to the twitching, the scratching, the constant hum of wings near your brainstem. Now, a small joke to ease the grime. If the jungle had a customer service desk, the complaint line would be 400 monkeys long and nobody would answer, because the clerk would have been eaten by a leopard by noon. Eventually the rain stops, the flies settle, you're soaked, you're dirty, you smell like mildew and misery. You find a dry spot under a fern and collapse face first. The ground is cold, but it's still ground. You close your eyes, but not for long, because now there's something squirming under you. Something long, something wet, a leech, your first. It finds the soft skin behind your knee, bites, attaches, begins to feed. You don't even feel it at first, just a slight tingle. By the time you notice, it's already swollen with your blood. You scream, mom grunts, Waku throws a leaf at your head. You yank the leech off, it doesn't let go. You scream louder. Finally your mom casually picks it off with her fingers and eats it. You're too stunned to cry. She just gave you the "this is your life now" look. You're finally starting to get the hang of crawling without face planting into your own waste. Progress. But before you throw a tiny jungle parade, let me introduce the next stage of misery, the poop you sleep on. Here's the cold truth. There's no such thing as a clean nap in the jungle. Your mother builds a new nest every night, weaving together ferns, palm fronds, vines, and whatever leafy debris she can find. It sounds cozy, right? Except you're not the only thing sleeping in that nest. There's yesterday's dirt, your older siblings' crusty snack remains, bug legs, bat guano, and of course gorilla poop. Now, gorillas aren't disgusting, they're just practical. Nesting space is limited, time is short, and sanitation, that's not really in the gorilla handbook. So yes, every evening you're gently laid into a structure that contains a lovely blend of half-digested leaves and fly larvae, and no one's going to wipe anything. You'll just wake up with a leaf stuck to your butt and move on with your life. There's something deeply humbling about realizing that your pillow is basically someone else's bowel history. Fringe tidbit time. Some researchers believe gorillas choose to nest in areas with their own droppings to mark territory and keep group scent cohesive. It's like an olfactory group hug, a smelly, fungal, deeply personal group hug. Back to you. Your skin itches constantly now. You've got welts on your arms, red patches around your neck, and some mystery rash under your armpits that seems to be forming a map of Central Africa. You scratch and then pause because, great, you've now got a fingernail full of fungus. Meanwhile, night is falling, and what a night. Cold fog slides through the forest like ghost breath. You shiver under your mother's belly, only partially shielded by her fur. But the real issue isn't the chill, it's what's living in the bedding. Things that crawl, things that wiggle, things that bite. Let's start with mites. They're invisible to you, but they're everywhere, living in the woven branches of the nest, thriving in the damp layers of leaf mold, latching onto your skin, and munching on your tiny blood vessels like they're sipping herbal tea. Some of them lay eggs in your follicles, some just burrow in and die, which leaves your skin itchy, swollen and miserable. Now meet the termites. You hear a soft crackle. The nest is alive, literally. A splintery snap here, a tiny flake of sawdust there. You can't see them, but you feel the vibration. Termites eating through the dried base of the nest. You're sleeping on top of insects who are actively remodeling your bed while you lie in it. And the worst part, you get used to it. Mainstream fact, gorillas don't reuse nests. Not because they're picky, but because the risk of parasite buildup is too high. So every night, it's a new nest. Which means every night, your mom plops you into a freshly constructed microbial nightmare. It's like moving into a new apartment every day, and each one comes pre-furnished with someone else's dirty laundry. You'd think it couldn't get worse. And then the thunder starts, loud, sudden, shaking the canopy like it's about to collapse. You jolt awake, flailing. Your foot lands in something squishy. You hope it's mud. It isn't. Waku, half asleep beside you, mumbles and rolls over, taking your corner of the nest with him. You're cold, you're alone, you're wet, and then comes the rain. Torrential, hammering, not even pretending to be gentle. Within seconds, the nest is saturated. Water pools beneath you. Your mum grumbles, shifts, curls her body tighter, blocking the downpour from her own face. You, not so lucky, you're facing the edge, the exposed side. Rain hits your face like spitballs from the gods. A quick joke to lighten the damp: if hotels had jungle star ratings, your current suite would get a solid 0.3, and that's only because it came with a semi-conscious chaperone and a bonus centipede. Eventually it ends, morning creeps in, and with it, the smell, ripe, pungent, thick enough to chew, the scent of wet fur, festering droppings, insect activity, and overripe fruit rotting under the nest. You're lying in it, mouth slightly open, a leaf in your ear, drool crusted down your chin. Your mother wakes up, sits up, and casually scratches her armpit. Then you feel it, the subtle pop on your back, the tiny burst of sensation like a bubble breaking under your skin. A boil, your first jungle boil. Congratulations, you're not even a month old, and your world already reads like a medieval torture manual. Slapped by siblings, soaked in poop water, nibbled by flies, and now bitten. Constantly, aggressively, systematically. Welcome to the leeches, lice, and leg-crushing falls phase. Let's start with the obvious villains. The leeches. Rain has turned the jungle floor into a spa for bloodsuckers. You crawl a few steps off the nest, trying to be brave, trying to pretend that you're more than a damp jelly bean with fur, and immediately you're latched onto by something cold and squishy. Again, they favor the soft bits, behind your ears, inside your thighs, that spot between your toes that you just discovered yesterday. These aren't the dignified romantic vampires of old stories. These are blind tubes with teeth, and they're determined to turn you into a juice box. But worse than the leeches are the lice. They live in your fur now, and they're never leaving. They don't just itch, they humiliate. You scratch, and still they crawl. Your mother tries to help. She grooms you gently at first, but the moment she gets frustrated, she yanks a clump of fur out of your neck and eats it. You wince. She shrugs. Mainstream fact: grooming in gorillas isn't just hygiene, it's social glue. But for babies, it's mostly just tug of war with their scalps. You haven't earned your spot in the grooming circle yet. The older gorillas groom each other in pairs, exchanging care and calming each other's nerves. You're just the thing they forget to clean until you squeal loud enough to become a problem. Sometimes in desperation, you rub your back against a tree trunk. It feels amazing for half a second, then something falls on your head. A spider, a big one. You shriek, your leg slips, you tumble backward. And now we get to the third horror of the day, the falls. You haven't fully figured out how your limbs work. One moment you're scaling a thick vine in search of a snack. The next, the vine twists, you lose grip, and then wham, you're tumbling. You bounce off a low branch, you land sideways, your leg twists under you like it forgot which direction joints are supposed to bend. Pain, it shoots up through your hip and curls into your ribs. You shriek so loud the entire canopy pauses. Your mother looks over, momentarily concerned. She ambles over, checks your leg with one finger, and gives a grunt that probably translates to, "You'll live." You will, technically, but walking, that'll take a few days. Here's a fringe tidbit. Infant gorillas are surprisingly durable when it comes to minor falls. Their joints are flexible, their bones a bit more pliable than adults, but even then, injuries happen. Some are subtle, like a limp that lasts weeks. Others, not so subtle. A broken toe that never quite heals straight. A hip that cracks loud enough to silence birds. Your group moves on, and now you're lagging behind. Everything becomes harder. Climbing? Impossible. Crawling? Agony. Even nursing turns into a wrestling match with gravity. You cry more. But it's not the loud, hopeful cries of the newborn. It's the dull whine of a creature who knows no one's coming quickly. Pain is normal here. Misery doesn't come with exceptions. Scientists are still debating the full emotional range of infant gorillas in pain, whether they experience suffering like humans, or if it's more muted, more mechanical. But one thing's for sure, you feel it, and it lingers. Night falls again. The forest, wet and still, glows slightly under moonlight. Shadows twist around the nests. You try to curl into yourself to rest, but every twitch in your leg jolts a memory of the fall. You settle in, finally, only to feel something crawling across your back. More lice. Because of course. Quick joke: if you had a nickel for every parasite currently living in your fur, you'd be able to buy a premium subscription to Misery monthly. You finally drift into a light sleep. Your mother's arm is draped across your side like a warm log. Her breath smells like chewed bark and sour fruit, but it's the closest thing to comfort you'll get. And in the dark, you dream of falling. You're limping a little less now, though your leg still tingles when you put too much weight on it. The jungle doesn't pause for healing. No ice packs. No, take it easy, champ. Just relentless humidity, bruises and bugs. And as if that wasn't enough, here comes the emotional boot camp. Toddlerhood means terror training. You're starting to explore a little. 5 feet from mom, maybe 6 if you're feeling bold. You reach for leaves, gnaw on bark, tumble into spider webs, and for a moment you almost feel independent. That's when the charge happens. A blur of black fur, a roar that shakes your soul, a massive figure slamming the ground with his fists and sprinting straight at you. It's not a leopard, it's not even an enemy. It's him, the silverback. Your chest clenches, you freeze. Your tiny heart feels like it's trying to escape through your throat, and then he stops. Inches away, breathing heavy, staring down at you with a look that says, "Lesson delivered." It was a mock charge. Fun fact, silverbacks use mock charges to discipline, test, or simply terrify. It's part warning, part power display. No actual violence, if you're lucky, but the goal is clear. Submission. You are small. He is king. Act accordingly. You crawl back to mom so fast you leave a trail in the mud. She doesn't say anything. This is the curriculum. Lesson 1. Never let your guard down, even if the threat wears your uncle's face. Scientists still debate the full psychological impact of mock charges on infant gorillas. One theory suggests it's crucial for teaching social boundaries early. Another proposes it's simply stress conditioning. Either way, your nervous system now buzzes like an electric fence. Back in the safety of mom's armpit, you try to nap. You can't. Your brain replays the scene on loop. The sound, the ground shaking, the blur of motion, that look in his eyes. And now that you're a bit more mobile, everyone expects more from you, including the other toddlers. Welcome to gorilla kindergarten. Here, play is war. You're surrounded by other little fuzzballs with big eyes and bad intentions. They pounce, shove, climb you like furniture, and snatch every leaf you touch. One, slightly older than you, wraps his arms around your neck and just squeezes, not maliciously, just experimenting. And you squeak like a defective chew toy. Your mother finally swats him away, but by then, you've learned a second rule. No toy, leaf or twig is truly yours. You try to find peace under a bush. You doze off. A flying beetle the size of a mango slams into your face. You wake up screaming. Waku laughs. You're taken along on foraging trips now. Sort of. You mostly just cling while your mum rips open branches. Once you tumble into a patch of nettles. Your face swells. Your eyelid turns red and droopy. Everyone ignores it. But wait, it gets worse. You try climbing again. Higher this time. 2 feet. Then 3. You look down. Bad idea. Your balance gives. You fall. Not far, but enough to land on your back. It knocks the breath out of you. You don't cry. You can't. Your lungs refuse to work for 5 terrifying seconds. Then gasp, you inhale. The first real lesson in what it feels like to almost die. A joke to soften the trauma. Jungle toddlers don't get safety rails. They get gravity and consequences. And maybe, a shove from a sibling halfway through. One day, while chewing bark, you feel a strange presence behind you. You turn. It's a snake. Long, silent, curious. Your heart stops. You freeze. Then your mom appears out of nowhere. She charges. Not a mock one. A real spine-rattling, leaf-blasting sprint. The snake disappears. So do you. Right back into the nook of her chest. She doesn't look at you. Doesn't acknowledge what she just saved you from. But that night, she grooms you extra long. Carefully, silently, gently. And for the first time in weeks you sleep without flinching. Just once. You're about 2 months old now. Congratulations. You've survived more trauma than a medieval peasant, and somehow your limbs still mostly point the right direction. But don't let that lull you into false security, because now comes the phase where your emotional and physical limits get tested on loop. Silverback smacks and sibling screams. Let's start with the screaming. It happens every 5 minutes. You've begun to understand that the jungle has a soundtrack, and it's not birdsong, it's sibling drama. Daily, relentless, eardrum-splitting drama. Waku and his crew have now fully embraced their roles as junior tyrants, and you're their favorite prop. Waku wants your stick. Scream. He wants the spot you're sitting on. Scream. You touched a berry he was thinking about eating. Nuclear scream. There's no such thing as sharing in the juvenile gorilla world. There's only chaos, and whoever grunts louder wins. And here's the worst part. No adult is intervening. Not really. Your mother might grunt lazily from the corner. Another female might glance over, bored, but mostly, you're expected to tough it out. Mainstream fact: gorilla societies are hierarchical, and infants sit at the very bottom. There's no baby privilege. You have to earn space and protection. Until then, every leaf, every sunny patch of dirt, every fig is a battlefield. Now let's talk about the smacks. The silverback, massive, brooding, the walking embodiment of thunder, has had enough of your noise. He tolerates it for a while. A little squeaking here, a little screeching there. But when the screaming escalates, when Waku knocks over the wrong nest or steals the wrong fruit, he rises. His shadow falls across the group. Everything goes still. Even the insects hold their breath. You don't run, you freeze, because you know what's coming. He stomps over. Waku cowers. But it's you. He reaches first. One swipe, not a full blow, more like a disciplinary flick from a 400-pound patriarch. It sends you rolling, not far, just enough to remind you, he's watching, and he's not impressed. Fringe tidbit: silverbacks will sometimes discipline infants that aren't even theirs. They're not being cruel, they're maintaining social order. If things get too noisy, too disruptive, too unruly, they step in, with authority. Your mother pulls you back into her arms. She grooms your face where the hit landed. Not gently, not lovingly, just, practically, like she's brushing dirt off a shoe. You don't cry. Not anymore. You've learned the third jungle rule. Quiet equals safe. Now, let's zoom out a bit. This dynamic isn't random. It's baked into gorilla life. Silverbacks aren't just big and cranky. They're also protectors, referees, and in a twisted way, mentors. That mock smack, it's not the last. It won't even be the worst. But it sets boundaries you'll carry for life. Scientists still debate how much of this discipline is intentional behavior modeling versus stress response. One theory argues that young gorillas learn emotional regulation by being on the receiving end of their elders' reactions. Another suggests it's just dominance management, plain and simple. Either way, the bruises stay with you longer than the lessons. Later, you're trying to nap, head on mom's shoulder, half suspended in the crook of her arm, and Waku sneaks up with a rock. Not a big one, just big enough. He drops it next to your foot, hard. You jolt awake. He grins. You lunge. It's your first act of defiance. You grab a clump of fur from his shoulder and yank. He screeches. It's glorious. Of course, he retaliates by shoving you into a bush of stinging nettles 5 minutes later. But still, you fought back. A small joke to celebrate the moment. In gorilla terms, this counts as character development. In human terms, it's like surviving your older sibling throwing a toaster at your head and deciding to throw a fork back. Night falls. Your group is quieter today. Maybe tired, maybe nursing their own bruises. You nestle into your mother's lap. She hums. It's not a song, just a soft rhythmic grunt, part boredom, part contentment. You fall asleep to the sound of someone else whimpering in the distance. This time, it's not you. By now, your ears twitch at every sound. You've become a tiny, paranoid fuzzball with PTSD-level awareness. And rightly so, because the jungle is loud. Too loud. At first, you thought the forest noises were kind of interesting. Chirps, rustles, maybe a monkey farting in the distance. But now it's overwhelming. You can't go 5 minutes without something shrieking, howling, snapping, buzzing, or crashing. Let's start with the howler monkeys. They're not even in your group. They live in the canopy, far above your head, but their screams rattle your spine. It's like being stuck under a car alarm that never stops. You look up, terrified, thinking the apocalypse is coming. Nope, just Marvin the howler monkey announcing breakfast. Then there's the insects. They don't hum, they roar. The cicadas alone sound like someone revving a chainsaw into your eardrum. Their synchronized screeching hits a pitch that feels like it's vibrating your baby teeth loose. And oh, let's not forget the birds. Some sing beautifully, sure. Others, they make noises that sound like coughing goats being mugged. One species lets out a call that mimics a baby crying, which frankly feels like a personal attack. You turn your head, expecting another gorilla in distress, and it's just a feathered troll with a great sense of humor. Mainstream fact: the African rainforest has some of the highest decibel levels of any non-human environment on Earth. Between the amphibians, insects, birds and mammals, it's an acoustic war zone. Now here's where the real stress kicks in, because not all jungle sounds are harmless. Some are warnings. A sudden rustle, that might be a snake, or a big cat, or a falling branch, or nothing. But your brain doesn't wait to verify. You freeze, muscles locked, ready to bolt, or at least squeal until someone bigger saves you. A loud thud in the distance, could be a tree fall, or a territorial gorilla in another group, slamming his chest to warn you off. Either way, it means danger. Even your own group adds to the chaos. Waku yells constantly. Your cousins argue over a fig, like it's the last one on Earth. The silverback grunts, slaps the ground, farts like thunder, and occasionally lets out a chest-beating bellow that echoes for miles. One fringe observation from researchers: infant gorillas often show physical distress, shaking, blinking rapidly, clenching fists, when exposed to loud, unpredictable jungle noise. In short, you're not just annoyed, you're overwhelmed, maybe even traumatized. Scientists are still debating whether gorillas develop acute sound recognition patterns like humans do. Do they learn to ignore the safe noises and focus only on the dangerous ones? Or are their systems constantly flooded by every single disturbance? You're flooded. The worst is during sleep. You finally find a dryish spot, curl up in your mother's arms, begin to drift off, and bam, thunder, right above your head. You leap 3 inches into the air, fart in panic, and land back in the exact spot with your heart hammering like a drum. A quick joke to lighten things up: if the rainforest had a volume control, it would be stuck at Chainsaw Orchestra with a broken mute button. Now imagine trying to learn how to communicate in this noise. You've just started discovering your voice. Small grunts, whines, squeals, a little EP when someone takes your twig. But with the constant chaos around you, nobody hears you. It's like trying to whisper your order in a nightclub kitchen during a fire drill. So you start experimenting. A louder squeak, a different pitch, a foot stomp that makes leaves shake. Eventually you figure it out. You don't speak to be heard. You speak to be seen. Your sounds are part of a dance, paired with eye contact, hand gestures, posture. It's primitive charades with real survival stakes. But it's not just about communication. Noise in the jungle isn't just irritating, it's camouflage. Predators thrive in silence. If the forest goes quiet, it means something's wrong, something's hunting. So paradoxically, the noise is your safety blanket. The madness means life is continuing. The chaos means nothing yet has its claws around your neck. Still, it's exhausting. You try covering your ears, doesn't work. You try hiding in the crook of a tree, still loud. You even try stuffing a leaf into one ear. Now it's loud and uncomfortable, so you give up. You sit, you scratch, you blink slowly, and you embrace the noise, not because it makes sense, but because there's no escape from it. It's the drumbeat of your chaotic, sloppy, terrifying little jungle life. You fall asleep to a distant scream. Again, not yours, this time. If the jungle were a reality show, this next segment would be the daily food challenge, except there's no prize at the end, and half the contestants cry through their meals. Welcome to Food Fight, Leaves, Bark, and Fist Fights. You're old enough now to start sampling the group's culinary delights. Unfortunately, everything tastes like tree. Not sweet tree, not spicy tree, just tree. Bark, stems, shoots, dry leaves, slightly moldy leaves, and things that look like leaves but squirm when you bite them. It's not glamorous. Your first real attempt at solid food comes during a midday forage. You watch your mother strip bark from a sapling with alarming efficiency. Her fingers are like machetes. She rips it off, chews once, and swallows. You imitate her. Badly. You grab a twig, hold it sideways, miss your mouth completely. Then try again and get a mouthful of splinters. You gag. You sneeze. You try to chew through the bitterness, but your baby teeth just bounce off. Mainstream fact: gorillas eat over 100 types of plants, and their digestive systems are adapted to handle large amounts of fibrous material. Yours? Still figuring that out. You're more stomachache than stomach right now. It's not just the taste, it's the effort. You see that pile of leaves over there? You want it. But so do Waku and two of your cousins. So the moment you crawl toward it, it's an all-out brawl. Waku slaps you in the shoulder. One cousin grabs your foot and pulls you backward like a sack of laundry. Another just sits on the leaves to establish dominance, staring at you like, try it. So instead, you opt for a lonely-looking stem hanging from a bush. You tug it off, chew, and immediately regret your life choices. It's bitter, like regret, and foot fungus. You chew through it anyway, eyes watering. Then Waku, blessed Waku, spots a banana-shaped object in the distance. Bananas are a treat, rare, not always in season, but they're the holy grail of the gorilla snack world. And now everyone's running. You stumble after the pack, trailing behind like the slow kid in a zombie movie. By the time you reach the bush, the banana's gone. The peel is on the ground, half chewed, already hosting a dozen ants. You try to lick it. Waku smacks the back of your head. A fringe observation: gorilla infants have been seen trying to claim food with loud vocalizations, squeaks, grunts, whines, as if to say, mine. It almost never works. But it does add to the ambient noise level of what already sounds like a protest rally in a blender. Let's not forget the time it takes to eat. Gorillas can spend up to 6 hours a day foraging and chewing, and chewing, and chewing. You spend 30 minutes gnawing on a single leaf vein. Your jaw cramps, your eyes glaze over. You lose the will to live somewhere around chew number 70. You look up, hoping for validation. Your mother is halfway through an entire tree branch. Some days, you try to chew bark because you think it's a snack. Other days, you try to chew your own foot because you think it's a snack. Once, you tried to chew a rock. It did not go well. You learn quickly that meals are also prime time for ambushes. While you're distracted by that slightly damp mushroom cap, your cousin launches a shoulder tackle. The mushroom flies. You fall into a puddle. Now you're soggy and hungry. You wail. Nobody listens. Scientists are still debating whether gorilla infants truly learn food selection by imitation or trial and error. One theory says you mimic adults. Another says you just chew everything and hope for the best. Based on your current gut discomfort and the beetle you swallowed this morning, we're leaning trial and error. One more joke to chew on. If a Michelin star critic reviewed your jungle diet, it would be 2 stars for texture, 0 stars for flavor, 1 star for emotional damage. Night comes. You fall asleep with bits of leaf still clinging to your lips, your stomach mildly cramping from whatever mossy twig you thought was edible, and a faint memory of Waku laughing at you after he stole your only decent snack. You dream of fruit. Soft, sweet, unguarded fruit. Too bad it's just a dream. There's a spot just beyond the cluster of vines where the ground dips slightly and the sun filters through the trees like golden syrup. It looks like paradise. But today, that spot is a trap, because it's time for you to learn the hard truth about gorilla fun zones. Fire ants in forbidden fun zones. You've gained some independence. A few feet away from mum is no longer cause for alarm. You've discovered the art of solo exploration. That patch of grass. Intriguing. That shiny beetle. Hypnotic. That soft sunlit patch of earth that seems just perfect for a nap. Cursed. You plop yourself down, curl up, and within seconds, bam, your rear end explodes into fire. Not literal flames, but it may as well be. You scream. You leap. You flail so hard you flip onto your face. The fire ants are here, and they are not playing. You don't know where they came from. You don't even know what they are. All you know is your skin is suddenly a war zone of tiny stings and crawling legs. You sprint, sort of. Really, it's a hop, limp scoot that leaves a streak of dirt and panic behind you. Let's be clear. Fire ants don't just bite. They bite, then sting. The venom leaves welts that itch for days. And you sat directly on their capital city during siesta hour. Congratulations, you're now a tiny furry Godzilla who ruined their peace treaty. You rush back to your mother. She takes one look at your flailing ant-covered self and does what any jungle mom would do. She slaps you. Not in anger, but in grooming mode. She starts swiping at the ants fast and hard, picking them off your legs, your back, your tail. At one point she even lifts your arm and bites one off herself. Then she grunts, sets you down and goes back to her fig, like nothing happened. Mainstream fact: grooming isn't just social bonding in gorillas, it's emergency pest control. Ants, ticks, fleas, if it crawls it gets flicked, bitten or squashed. And it's not just fire ants. That hollow log you crawled into earlier. Also cursed. Home to a colony of centipedes with more legs than mercy. One scurried down your neck. You screamed. Waku laughed so hard he fell out of the tree and landed on a dung pile. Which brings us to the overarching lesson here. Everywhere fun is allowed is also dangerous. You love climbing now. Vines are fun, trees are thrilling, but the branches, not always stable. You once tried to hang like your cousins do and snapped a twig that sent you flopping like a fish. You landed on your back in a bed of old seed pods, sobbing into your own elbow. And even when the terrain isn't dangerous, someone else makes it so. One day you finally find a sweet spot. No ants, no spiders. Just a soft patch of moss under a fallen log. You settle in peaceful for once. Then Waku shows up. He sees your joy and immediately wants it. He doesn't even say anything, just lunges. A wrestling match begins. You scream, he grunts, and the log collapses slightly, sending both of you tumbling into a puddle of rotting fruit mash that smells like fermented onions. Now you both stink, and he still got your moss spot. Fringe tidbit. Some gorilla juveniles have been observed stealing nesting materials or play areas from others on purpose, just to spark confrontation. It's not about resources, it's about dominance. And you, tiny explorer, have none. Scientists still debate whether gorilla play is primarily for learning motor skills or testing social hierarchy. But for you, it's starting to feel like a scripted hazing ritual from a jungle fraternity. One more betrayal for the day. You finally find a berry, a rare, red, juicy one. Your first successful solo forage. You grin, you reach, you hold it in your tiny hand like a sacred orb, and then a bird swoops down and takes it. You just stare at your hand in disbelief, as if the berry might magically reappear. It doesn't. Here's your nightly joke. If joy is a banana, your jungle childhood is a Waku, with diarrhea stealing it and blaming you for the smell. Nightfall. Your legs are covered in bites. Your tail has dirt caked into it. Your back still itches from whatever crawled there this morning. But you're alive, and remarkably your little belly is full thanks to a stolen leaf, 3 questionable stems and 1 mouthful of something that was either fungus or flower petals. You close your eyes, drifting into sleep, knowing full well tomorrow's fun zone might be full of scorpions, but you'll go anyway, because what else is there? The jungle doesn't do subtlety. When something wants to kill you, it's usually loud, fast, and doesn't leave room for interpretation. But sometimes, death comes quietly, slithering, camouflaged, or disguised as curiosity. And that brings us to today's delightful life lesson. Snakes, snares, and sudden screams. You're walking more confidently now. Still waddling, still with the grace of a coconut on stilts, but walking nonetheless. That means you're starting to venture farther from your mother. A few feet becomes 10, then 15. One time, you even made it all the way to the edge of the foraging group. That's where you saw it. The tail, black and green, barely moving. You thought it was a vine. It wasn't. It moved. You froze. Your heartbeat pounded in your ears like war drums. It coiled. The shape of it made your stomach tighten. A whisper in your blood told you, run. And before you could even squeak, the silverback charged. No mock charge. No theatrics. Just pure, thunderous motion. He barreled past you like a freight train in fur, slammed his fists into the ground, and the snake vanished, slipping back into the undergrowth like a rumor. Fringe tidbit. Gorillas don't often kill snakes, but they will intimidate them out of their territory, particularly pythons. And yes, some pythons do eat baby gorillas when they can. You were nearly a jungle appetizer. Everyone's acting normal again. Foraging resumes, the leaves rustle, but you're different now. You saw the shadow, you smelled the silence. You learned what it feels like to be almost eaten. And unfortunately, that won't be the last time. Later that week, your group moves into a new part of the forest, less familiar, quieter. That's when your cousin Little Bacco wanders off after a butterfly. 1 minute, he's laughing. The next minute, scream. A sharp, rising, blood-curdling screech that freezes everyone mid-bite. Your mother lifts her head. The silverback stands. Bacco's scream cuts off. You never see him again. The group searches briefly. There's a bit of rustling, some high-pitched calls from the females, but it's brief, because they know it could have been a leopard, or a golden cat, or a lone male gorilla clearing out future competition. No one's sure. No one stays to find out. Mainstream fact, infant mortality in wild gorilla populations is estimated to be as high as 40%. That includes predation, disease, falls, and internal violence. Basically, the jungle is a game with poor odds, and you don't even get a rulebook. Then there are the snares. Humans. You don't see them. You never do, but sometimes you find what they leave behind. Loops of wire tied to saplings, metal nooses hidden under leaves, tools designed to grab a foot, a hand, a neck, not for you, specifically, usually for antelope or bush pigs, but you're not exempt. Your older cousin once got caught in one. He survived, but the damage never healed right. His wrist twists when he climbs now. He moves slower, and you can tell it made him quieter. Meaner. Scientists are still debating how much impact human traps have on gorilla psychology, but behavior changes are undeniable. A young gorilla who's been snared becomes more cautious, less playful. You can see it in their eyes, like the jungle grew fangs overnight. One day, you see something shiny on a branch. You reach for it. It's a loop of wire, innocent, beautiful, even. Wacko slaps your hand away before you touch it. He doesn't say anything, just looks at you, serious for once, and walks off. You never try to touch it again. A small joke to cut the tension. If Darwin had to describe gorilla childhood in one sentence, it'd be congratulations on your birth. Please enjoy our 12-week obstacle course of doom. Night falls heavy that day. You lie in the nest, limbs aching, mind racing. You saw a snake. You heard a scream. You nearly touched a trap. You finally understand. There are no safe zones. only quieter dangers. You fall asleep listening for them. You're no longer a baby. Not quite a big gorilla either, but something in between. You've survived months of insect ambushes, sibling brutality, leech battles, and nightly terror, and just when you start feeling like you're finally getting strong, that's exactly when the jungle decides to target you again. Welcome to Almost Adult, Never Safe. You're walking upright more often now. Clumsy, bow-legged, but upright. You've mastered basic climbing. You've figured out which leaves give you gas, and which ones send you sprinting to the nearest bush. You've even learned how to dodge Waku's surprise headbutts with 40% success. In other words, you're starting to feel capable, which is dangerous, because that's when the threats evolve. Let's start with rival males. From the treetops you hear them. Drum beats on chests. Distant, echoing calls. Not quite in your territory, but close enough. You don't understand everything yet, but you can feel the tension in the adults. The silverback stops playing with the juveniles. He sits more, watches more, listens more. Then one day the standoff happens. A lone male, massive, scarred, his fur streaked with grey, appears at the edge of the clearing. No one eats, no one breathes. The silverback stands. He doesn't charge immediately. First it's a display, chest beating like a war drum, vocalizations that rise like thunder, branches thrown, ground pounded. The lone male mimics. He's not backing down. You hide behind your mother, peeking from under her elbow. You've never seen fear in her face before, but it's there now. Tightened jaw, wide eyes, hand flexing like she's deciding whether to run. Fringe fact, bachelor males, when trying to take over a group, often target infants and juveniles first. Not out of cruelty, but as a way to eliminate competition and trigger the female's fertility cycle. If he wins, you're dead. But not today. The silverback charges like an avalanche. The forest explodes with the sound of smashing limbs and primal roars. You don't see what happens. Your mother pulls you away so fast your arms ache. But when the group finally settles, the intruder is gone. For now, scientists still debate the psychological aftermath of these attacks on young gorillas. One theory suggests it leads to hypervigilance and stunted exploration. Another argues it accelerates social development by forcing early maturity. All you know is you can't sleep that night. Every rustle, every creak sounds like an incoming invader. Even Waku is quiet for once. But predators don't always come on two legs. A week later, your group moves near a river. You're exploring the edge when you see it. Movement in the reeds. You think it's a bird. It's not. It's a leopard. Spotted. Silent. Stalking. You freeze. Your brain locks. You can't scream. Luckily, someone does. A cousin not as frozen as you. Screeches loud enough to startle the predator. The group reacts in a blur of motion. Mothers grabbing babies. Silverbacks storming the underbrush. Chaos erupting like wildfire. The leopard vanishes, but your fear doesn't. You finally understand no matter how strong you feel, you're still prey. Still soft. Still small enough to carry. Still quiet enough to disappear without a trace. One mainstream fact: leopards are among the few non-human predators that actively target young gorillas. Their stealth is unmatched, and they often take their kill without leaving a sound. After that, you rarely explore alone. You stay closer to the group, closer to your mother, closer to the illusion of safety. But then comes the emotional gut punch. You start noticing something. Your father, the silverback, doesn't look at you much anymore, doesn't groom you, doesn't even acknowledge your presence. And then one day, he charges you. Not a mock charge, not a playful bluff, a real one. You weren't even doing anything, just chewing a root. But maybe you looked at him the wrong way. Maybe you were standing in a spot he liked. Maybe he just wanted to remind you of something. You're not a baby anymore. You dive into the bush. He doesn't follow, but the message is clear. You're not safe from him anymore either. Small joke to cope. Jungle puberty is like a high-stakes eviction notice wrapped in emotional trauma and stomped into the dirt by your own dad. You crawl back to your mother. She doesn't say anything, just pulls you close for a moment, then moves on. That night, you lie awake, curled in a too small patch of moss, thinking about the river, about the silence before the scream, about how even your protector sees you differently now, almost adult, never safe. You wake up to shouting, not the usual squabbles or Waku's loud dreams about bananas, but panic, urgency. The kind of noise that makes the whole forest flinch. You sit up, heart pounding, eyes wide. The group is moving, fast. No time for grooming, no time for snacking. Your mother scoops you with one arm and begins crashing through the undergrowth like a freight train made of fur and fear. You cling tightly, your little fingers digging into her fur. Branches slap your face. Leaves smear across your eyes. You don't know why you're running, you just know it's serious. And then you hear it, a crack. Sharp, not like a branch, not like thunder. It's a sound you've never heard before. But your bones know, your gut knows. It's a gunshot. You don't know what a poacher is. You don't know what steel traps are. You've never seen a human with a rifle. But the sound travels through your DNA like a siren. Something ancient in your blood screams, run. Mainstream fact, poaching remains a persistent threat to gorilla populations. Despite conservation efforts, many gorillas are killed each year for bushmeat or captured illegally for exotic animal trade. Infants are often left orphaned or die from trauma and injury during capture. Back in your group, confusion reigns. The silverback is missing. Some say he went to confront the danger. Some say he was caught. Others refuse to say anything at all. The group huddles together, wide-eyed and quiet, waiting. Hours pass. He doesn't return. You're too young to understand the full impact, but you feel the change. The sudden stillness in the adults, the way the females avoid eye contact, the way Waku sits alone, uncharacteristically quiet. Later, the group moves again, slower this time, more cautiously. You're allowed to walk, but only with supervision. You no longer stray, you no longer chase butterflies. You don't even roll in the moss patch. You've learned anything can vanish. You spot something metallic in the distance, a snare. The same kind Waku once slapped out of your hand. This time, it's triggered. Blood stains the leaves. There's fur caught in the wire, a tuft of grey. You don't know whose. Fringe tidbit: juvenile gorillas have been observed mourning lost group members by sitting silently near places associated with the disappeared, sometimes revisiting those areas for days. It's not clear if they understand death, but they definitely understand absence. That night, the group sleeps in silence. No grooming, no chest thumping, just the hum of insects and the distant call of an owl. You press into your mother's chest. She's tense, still alert. Her hand rests on your back, but doesn't move. You think about the silverback, his power, his protection, his smacks, his charges. Gone, and just like that, the last thread of illusion snaps. You finally understand what the jungle's been trying to tell you from the beginning. It never promised you survival, it offered you a shot. A messy, brutal, beautiful shot. Small joke, if you were hoping for a peaceful jungle childhood, someone should have handed you a brochure before birth. Come for the figs, stay for the trauma. And now, little one, your real journey begins. Not because things will get easier, but because now you know they won't, and you're still here, still breathing, still learning, still clinging, still trying, because despite everything, you were born a gorilla, and somehow, you're still alive. So now, as the moon hangs heavy over the treetops, and the forest breathes its deep, damp breath into the quiet, you curl your tired limbs into the curve of your mother's chest. Her fur is warm, a little damp, but it smells like safety, earth and bark and memory. Somewhere nearby, another infant grumbles in its sleep. A juvenile snores with a soft puff. The insects have mellowed into a steady background hum, and even the ants seem to be resting. You blink slowly, eyelids heavy, the weight of your strange little life pressing down softly but completely. Your body aches in places you can't name. Tiny scars dot your arms. Your legs twitch occasionally with the remnants of fear. But for once the night doesn't press so hard. The fear doesn't cling so close. You survived. The jungle doesn't sing lullabies. It groans, it crackles, it hums. But somehow, after everything, that becomes a kind of comfort. The sound of things continuing, of breath, of life, of motion. You nuzzle closer, eyes finally closing. No more screaming, no more fire ants, no more surprise snakes or slaps from silverbacks. Just this moment, stillness, sleep, and tomorrow. Tomorrow will be loud again, and wild, and hard. But you'll face it, because you're a gorilla, and you were born for this. Good night, little one.